construction. But in the lab, the curing, we put it in the curing room, or we get, I don't know, like concrete samples and we put it in the curing room. So based on the research and previous data that we have, the water can penetrate just 1 inch at the max to the concrete. So the external curing means the concrete is getting cured after after the hydration is happening, but just for the external part. And curing is a very important part of the concrete life in the first 28 days, because the hydration means the chemical things are happening in the concrete to make the concrete harder and stronger. And so, but internal curing means we try to use some materials, either or SAP or lightweight fine aggregate that we used here, that they can have and hold more water, like for example, 10 times more than the regular aggregate. And it does not add the water to the concrete at the time of the mixing, because if you add just, I don't know, like 1 gallon of water to a whole truck, you screw the concrete. So you don't want to change the water cement ratio in the beginning, but after 24 hours, then the hydration is start going on and the concrete is start getting drier. Then they start sucking the water out of the aggregate, and that's how the hydration is going on after even like around a month. The only thing that has been changed in our mix design was the amount of fine aggregate. So we tried to keep everything identical except the fine aggregate, that we start using lightweight fine aggregate volume-wise. And then it's just 15% to 25% based on the volume, not the weight, because it's much lighter, of the fine aggregate to just keep the strength, because the fine aggregate keeps the strength. And also the lightweight does not have the capacity and capability of the regular fine aggregate to strengthen the concrete, but it just adds, like increases the hydration rate. That's why we just keep it 15 to 25% volume-wise replacement. So in this way, we can keep both of them. And we've done some lab tests and evaluation for slump, air content. Calorimetry means we keep and we record the temperature of the concrete for the first month and first 30 days or 28 days. So we can measure and evaluate the hydration that is going on, because the hydration caused the higher temperature, the compressive strength and stiffness, split tensile strength, surface resistivity, and also SEM, which means we cut the samples and we scanned them and we did some image analysis and we compared the non-reacted cement and compared them together. So based on the lab test in the compressive strength, we see almost 10 to 20% improvement in both Washington and Winnebago County. So our construction was in Washington County, which is close to the Iowa City, and Winnebago County, which is close to the Cora, if you're familiar with the Iowa area. And then in both of them, the solid line is the one which is in Winnebago County, and the dashed line is the one in the Washington County. And the circle is the one which has internal curing, and the triangle is a normal concrete. So we can see in both construction site, like more or less, after 20 days, 28 days, we can see the like the concrete compressive strength is showing higher strength after, like, I don't know, 86 days for about 10%. And yeah, so that means the hydration is showing the result. And also that increases the split tensile like more than we expected, because in the Washington County, as we can see, that was 800 psi for the normal concrete, but that raised up to 1,000 psi for the internal curing method. So that means when the traffic is higher, the tension that happens on the concrete slab goes to the compressive, and also on the side, it can feel some tensile strength. So when both of them increases, means the concrete like durability is going to be increases. And also another thing which is important, well, everywhere, but also in Iowa, when it snows, they use a lots of salt on the concrete. So the less the less penetration happen for the concrete, the less chloride gets to the bars and destroy the concrete. So the higher resistivity means the higher life expectancy that we have from the road pavement. As we can see, that using the internal curing method increases the surface resistivity, which directly related to the life expectancy and the lower maintenance. Another thing that just in the lab, we wanted to try and see, okay, we see the improvement in mechanical properties, but can we prove that the chemical reaction is going on or not? How many minutes? Okay. But the chemical reaction is going on or not in a real situation. So we compare and measure the temperature of the samples that we took. The red one is internal curing and the black one is the normal concrete. So as we can see, after like in the first days, in the first like 2 days, we can see the higher temperature is very noticeable, because that means the hydration is very higher in the samples that we have internal curing method and like they find aggregate more than the one that is just normal concrete. And that's why the heat, the temperature is higher for about 1.5 degrees of centigrade. And the last one, which I think that's the coolest one, that's the image processing that we had from a sample. So this is just the 7 days, but we did it for 14, 28, and 56, and 94, I guess. We got a sample, we cut it, we put it under the microscope, and those two pictures are the pictures that we took in the sides of picometer, if I'm not wrong. And then we compare them. So as we can see, we measure and we analyze the pictures to be able to measure and compare the white pixels, which means non-reacted cement. So in the internal curing method, we have less non-reacted cement particles, but in the normal concrete, we do have more. And yeah, that means it works. Be happy. Anyway, so those are just lab results, but also in the field we put some sensors for measuring the temperature and moisture in the concrete slabs, and we put it 1 inches distance far from the surface and also 1 inches from the bottom. So we could compare the top and the bottom temperature and moisture of the concrete. Why did we do that? Because the curling and warping happens because of the gradient of the temperature and moisture in the slab. So if the top is warmer, so it goes curling, and because of moisture, we call it warping. So if, for example, in the same time, if we can keep the moisture more uniform, then we definitely face less warping. But if the top of the concrete is, for example, drier and the bottom is more moist, then definitely the top starts shrinking. So we see more warping, and that causes lots of cracks. Well, technically, because of that, we do have joints between and bars between the concrete slabs. So this is kind of a messy one, but just a big picture of the whole temperature that we measure. If we want to get more into the details, I tried to deduct the numbers of the temperature from the bottom and the top of the concrete. So we measure all the max and means of the temperature per day for for depth of 5.5 inches in both layers. In the interlock curing, we can see the max and mean are getting closer after 28 days. So in the beginning, in two same slabs in location, one of them is interlock curing, one of them is normal concrete. The temperature in interlock curing is higher than the temperature in the normal concrete. I mean, these two, for example. So we see more differences here than here, means the hydration here is higher, and after a month, we are facing kind of same hydration, means in the first month, the hydration is going on, which is the most important part of the concrete after age of 28. So that means in the first 28 days, we have higher hydration rate in interlock curing in the actual field, not just in the lab result. And also, that shows the temperature difference for Washington County interlock curing and control section. So as you can see, so the solid line is the difference of temperature in the 5.5 inches depth of the slab, and the dashed line is the one on the surface. So the temperature differences was around 1 between 1 and 2 degrees of centigrade. And then after 28 days, it gets closer to 0. So when it gets closer to 0 means that the temperature differences, that's exactly the kind of the different perspective of the previous slide. So I just measure these differences and plot them. So in the beginning, that clearly shows we have 1 to 2 centigrade of differences in temperature, and then after 28 days, we're getting closer to 0, which means now the hydration is getting closer. But more important than that, the water content or moisture. Well, they're different, but we could measure the water content with the 5TE sensors. So the water content in interlock curing is the red lines, and in control concrete or the normal slab is the black one. So we can see the water content stays much higher in the interlock curing versus the normal concrete. And why is that happening? Because the lightweight fine aggregates, they hold the water inside themselves. So they are placed in the concrete. And after the hydration is happening, they suck the water out, the hydration is going on, but the porosity is higher, so they are capable to keep more moisture in it. That's why the slab that we use with lightweight fine aggregate has more capable to hold more water and stay more moist than the one which is dry. And that means, yes, we do have higher water content in the slabs that we use the interlock curing to. Besides that, at the end of the day, the most important thing for the DOT was like, okay, that's pretty cool. We do have a better road, but what about the money? Because, well, I know it's more expensive in the beginning because lightweight fine aggregate, a stockpile cost, that's an extra cost. The preparation that we have to keep them moist for last 48 hours, that's another cost. So the initial cost is 3.2% higher, but it's 15 to 17% lower maintenance cost. The details is in the report. I didn't bring all the numbers exactly, but we just compared the initial construction cost in the Washington and Winnebago County, and then we modeled that, and we figured out, okay, if we need every 20 years maintenance for the normal situation, that we change to every 24 years for the interlock curing section. And also, if that costs us 213 grand per mile in the normal situation, that would reduce to $180,000 per mile, and we add 4 more years. So at the end of the day, if we do some cost analysis and we compare the net present value dollars per mile, that makes us feeling that, okay, if we compare these two, that sounds like for normal situation, we are spending $580,000 per mile in including the maintenance in the next 60 years, but we are spending sounds like $555,000 per mile in the next 72 years for the concrete that we use in the non-curing section. We include the time differences between 60 and 72 years also in two differences. So that means we are saving like around, like, I don't know, like 10% or something, roughly, or we just say 25 grand per mile, which is, if you think about 10 miles, which is not very weird, that means $250,000. Okay, on the last page, and sorry if I talk too much. Technically, using the lightweight fine aggregate improved the concrete hydration about 1 month and after construction. And after that, we can see the water content dropped to 2%, and this number in the same section for the internal curing section was 5%. And using lightweight fine aggregate improved the compression strength or just mechanical properties altogether. And also the calorimetry shows that we are seeing between 1 to 2 degrees of centigrade warmer than control concrete when we use the lightweight fine aggregate. That means we are having higher hydration degree. Thank you.
What type of materials are you using for your lightweight fine aggregate?
That's a clay-based aggregate that we didn't have it in Iowa, but we haul it from Kansas City. So another number that we had to include was it really depends on where do you want to have the construction. So that's why the numbers are different in Iowa City and Decorah, because the transportation cost also is one of the significant things. So it's a mine. So I guess they get it from a mine, then they do some process in the lab. They boil it, they make it, they increase the porosity, but it's technically clay-based aggregate.
Okay.
There are 2 different counties tested this material.
Yes.
So why have you used the same material at both the sites?
Material, you mean the cement or just the lightweight fine aggregate, or what do you mean?
What are the hydro?
So they are slightly different because different counties. So Winnebago County is District 6, I think so, and Iowa City is District. One of them is, there are 2 different districts. Is it? Okay, yeah.
District 2 is Winnebago.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so District 2 is Winnebago County, District 6 is Iowa City. So when it goes to the DOT, they have kind of a slightly different perspective. So, and also depends on the location. We have to use like local aggregate. So the aggregates, they are maybe a little bit different, but in both section of control section and the internal curing, they're going to be the same. So we're not comparing apple to oranges, but. Did I answer your question? Good.
I think
Good deal.
we can move on.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Good day. My name is Dorcas. I'm a first-year PhD student, and I work with Professor Christopher Day. So I started my PhD in January, and since the beginning of my PhD, I've been working on work zone performance measures. So a work zone is defined as an area where the road work occurs, and it may involve the enclosures and detours. And the picture there shows a work zone. It shows the segments, and then the colored red and yellow shows a route of a work zone with different segments in the work zone. So the importance of work zone performance measures is to be able to assess metrics like delay, queue, and then the user cost, and be able to develop suitable mitigation strategies for future work zone projects. So for my research, what I've been doing is to develop a work zone performance measures dashboard, and the data that I've been using is the segment information data, which is basically the linear referencing shapefile. That's where I get that information from. And then a segmentation date range, because sometimes different years have different segmentations on the road. So you have to be able to reconcile that differences when processing the data. And then INRIX data. So INRIX is a company that provides speed and position data of vehicles, so many vehicles. So it's a lot of data, big data. And the key information the segment data provides is the stats mile, and then the end mile of each segment on a route. So if you take a work zone route, you can have different segments, and then we get the stats and end mile from the segment data. And the segmentation data I've been using ranges from 2017 to 2019 to 2020, and within that a year, you can have different segmentation schemes. So 19.1 might not be the same as 19.2, and so you have to do a lot of checks when you are analyzing the data. So typically, this is how the INRIX data looks like, and the INRIX data provides the vehicle information minutes by minute. So we have lots of minutes by minute data. And then this is how the XD segment information looks like. So what I do is, currently what I do is I connect from Tableau to the server. I connect to AWS, and AWS has this entire, like, lots of data that I have to analyze. So the segmentation date range provides the version of the segments, and then the start dates and the end dates. So to do this processing, I get the INRIX data, log into the server, get the INRIX data, and then in Tableau, there are many different processes to group them into 15-minute bins. So then I group the travel time for each segment into 15-minute bins using a level of detail expression. And then I have to define a work zone status, because you can compare work zone 2019 to work zone 2020, or a work zone and a non-work zone in the same year. So I do the travel time calculation, given the distance and the miles, the distance and the speed. And then I calculate the average travel time across all segments on that route. And then I sum the travel time across the 15-minute bin to get a travel time distribution. And then for the congestion, I query to look at speeds less than 40. And then for queue, I look at speeds less than 15. So I do an inner join of these three data that's in the server. And so this is how the travel time distribution looks like. So this is useful to the DOT, because then they can, for a work zone route, they can determine how long the travel time was during the work zone. So you can compare across different months in a year. And from there, so this is aggregated to 15-minute bins. And then from there you can aggregate it to many different bins depending on the objective of what you're trying to look at. And so from there, you can compare a work zone and a non-work zone, and you can have a cumulative frequency diagram right in Tableau connected to AWS, and actually see when you take percentiles, you can compare 2019 to 2020 and observe what's going on in there. And then you can have a speed heat map. So this shows a speed across a route, a work zone route. So this particular route was in Iowa City. And so we can view the speed, and it was in the year 2020. So for a month, for one day in a month, for one day in May, I was able to look at the speed variation. And the color range tells me that where there's red, there was a slow speed, and where there's really green, like green, you have like a free flow. So you can tell across different segments on the route what is actually happening with travel. And then you have a congestion hours bar charts. So you can compare across different segments what the congestion situation is like. Then I did a congestion mile hours line chart. Unlike the congestion hours bar charts, the congestion mile hours takes into consideration the length of each segment. So that's the difference. And then with the Q mile hours, it's also the same procedure as the congestion mile hours, but the Q mile hours, the speeds are less than 15. So there's a Q, and then with the congestion mile hours, your speeds are less than 45. So combining all that together, you can have a work zone dashboard that will be useful to the DOT. So I have cumulative frequency diagrams for different periods. So I have it for weekday AM, weekday, midday, and then PM. So I think AM ranges from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then the mid ranges from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the PM is from 4 to 10 p.m. And then for weekday as well. So I put this together, and that will be published on the DOT's website for decision making. And so from there, you can calculate various work zone performance measures like the travel time index, the work zone LOTTR, which is the 80th percentile travel time over the 50th percentile travel time. Then you can get your delay hours as well and your congestion mile hours. So that is what I've been up to since I started my PhD. Questions? Thank you.
So it looked like on there, we're studying Interstate 80 through the 83, 80 reconstruction project. Were there other construction areas you were also looking at?
Yeah, that construction area. So you can query to the route ID or the work zone you're interested in.
How are you actually getting data from the grants? What platform are you using? Are you going straight from them?
So I think the Iowa DOT has purchased the INRIX data. So I use Tableau to assess the data, connect to the server. Thanks. Thank you.
So yeah, that was our student presentations. I thought we could just have like a round of introductions now that everybody's present here. I can start with myself because I know some of you guys came a little later. So I'm Archana Venkatachalapathy. I'm a PhD student here at Iowa State. I'm also the president for Transportation Student Association, the student chapter at ITE. And my PhD is concerning naturalistic driving studies and studying the driving behavior of vulnerable road users, like drivers with diabetes and cyclists, and typically seeing how we can improve the road environment and the traffic safety. And we have the TSA treasurer here, Dorcas. Would you like to just give your introductions?
So my name is Dorcas. I started my PhD in January, and I joined the TSA during the pandemic.
So you haven't seen the whole city.
But I've seen much this semester. Yeah, so.
We got the tailgating going on this side, so.
Yeah. I work with Professor Day. I graduated with a double master's in 2020 in community and regional planning and transportation engineering, and I had a GI certificate as well. That's about me.
Hey everybody, my name is Ames, and I joined Iowa State on August 2018. So I've seen some part of the Ames before the pandemic. I graduated from a master's in November 2020, and I'm still working on
PhD hopefully graduate this semester. And I accepted a fellow from UNC since 3 weeks ago. I started my job, so we'll see how this goes.
Congratulations.
And we want to interns coming in February. Just kidding.
I'm Rob Holland. I work for JDO Consulting Group. I'm also the current president for Iowa section of ITE.
So I'm Dan Cook. I'm a traffic engineer with HDR. Proud member of TSA back in the day, so it's fun to be back and see the group in action. So, yeah.
Thanks.
I'm Ron Davis. I work at Bolden Inc. I'm also a traffic engineer, an Iowa State graduate. I don't think we had TSA when I was around, so great that it's here in Lively. Glad to be here.
Hi, my name is Abdulaziz Lawal. I'm first year PhD student. I work on Iowa DOT project. Iowa Pavement Management project. My professor is Dr. Omar Asmani. I joined, this is my first semester actually. Prior to joining Iowa State, I had my master's at the University of Tennessee, where I graduated this past summer. I had the privilege of interning with the DOT in Tennessee DOT. I worked with the traffic section and the bridge management section of the DOT. Yeah, that is good.
Hi, my name is Naila Akhtar. I'm doing my master's in civil engineering here. I'm in my second year. Hopefully, will graduate next year, summer or spring. I work with Dr. Omar Smani, and I'm a research assistant in the Institute for Transportation. There we work with the ITS projects and with the Iowa projects. That's all about me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Raghupati. I started my PhD here in September, so it's just 2 months probably, less than 2 months. So I'm working with Professor Anush Sharma. So my area of research will be mostly in traffic safety.
Right, my name is John Davis. I am the city traffic engineer for the city of Des Moines. I'm the Iowa section secretary. I'm also the Missouri Valley District's Student Activities Committee chair. And I graduated, my alma mater beat Iowa. Beware if you ever get to beat number 2 in the nation in football. Boilermakers beat that.
5 years.
Meredith Emery. I'm a consultant with traffic engineer with Olson out of the Des Moines office. I am currently the vice president of the Georgia section of ITE. Just
Welcome back.
Got my membership with the Iowa section. I'm originally from Iowa, just moved back. So, me in a nutshell.
Thanks. If anybody who's present online wants to give their introductions, we can do that as well. I think it should be audible.
Good talking stuff.
Yeah, don't get anybody to do that.
Troy kind of the West.
Oh, okay. Should I? Yeah, I think, Jeff, would you like to start?
Sure, I can start. I'm Jeff Morrow. I'm a traffic engineer with Anderson Bogert Engineers in Cedar Rapids, and I graduated from Iowa State in 1987, and I can tell you the change in technology from when I left there to today is just amazing to me. And I'm very impressed with all 3 presentations. It makes me wonder what things will look like in 30 years from now. You're sitting here watching one of these presentations. I don't know if I'll still be around, but maybe. I hope I am. So anyway, great job. Thanks.
All right, Andrew, you want to
Yeah, I can go
Introduce
next.
yourself.
Yeah, hopefully my audio is not too bad. I'm on my laptop at home. Sorry I couldn't make it there in person, but yeah, I'm Andrew Houchin. I'm a traffic engineer with Snyder and Associates in Ankeny, and I went to Nebraska for my undergraduate degree. I graduated there 2013, and then I got my master's at Iowa State, where I was part of TSA as well. I graduated there in 2015 and been working at Snyder ever since. I'm also currently the ITE, or the Iowa Section ITE Vice President. So hopefully looking forward to seeing you all next year at some of our events, as well as next month at our first annual meeting.
Looks like next would be Stephen.
Yeah. So, sorry, this is Stephen. Sorry I couldn't make it there in person. I happened to be out of state during this meeting, unfortunately. Would love to be there. I'm a traffic project engineer with JEO Consultants in Ankeny. I'm the current eyesight section treasurer, so I handle the money for this year. Yeah, I graduated Iowa State, bachelor 2015, master 2017, GIS certificate, the whole 9 yards. So yeah, and I was part of TSA. I was recruitment chair and had a number of different positions there. I designed your website you currently have. So yeah, happy to hear all your presentations today. And yeah, again, sorry I can't make it in person.
That's it.
Any questions about we also got a recognition at home about so anybody who's available to join us, thank you so much for attending online.